The information contained in this presentation or accompanying materials is intended for informational purposes only and does not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the University of Kentucky Human Development Institute or its individual employees. We do attempt to provide accessible, accurate, and current information. However, no guarantees are made to that effect. So it's hard to believe that we are coming up on the last month of 2023, but I would like to invite you to join us for our December employment seminar, wrapping up 2023. And I did a little play on words there for the holiday season, but what we're going to do is look at the takeaways from our employment seminar series throughout the year. I've gotten feedback from many of you that there were some takeaways that you felt were very pertinent to helping people stay at work and return to work. And so we'll just highlight those. And again, I would invite you to join us on December 19th. The registration is there, but I'm going to ask Brandon if he would go ahead and put that in the chat as well. And I envision us having an interactive process for December's employment seminar series as well. So we are going to discuss return to work trends in the United States. And I pause when I say post-pandemic because I realize that we're still navigating through the pandemic in lots of ways. We're also going to explore how these trends impact workers as well as employer organizations. And then we're going to evaluate opportunities that we as employers, healthcare providers, vocational counselors, coordinators, and workforce professionals can take to promote recruitment and retention of workers in the workforce. So let's go ahead and let's get started with our first trend. And you can see here, looks like a woman who probably is, working for something like Instacart. And we are seeing more workers participating in what is referred to as the gig economy. So think about it for a minute. What do you think of when you hear gig workers or someone working in the gig economy? And if you don't mind, take a second and put that in the chat. All right. Sound workers for stage production. I like that. That sounds exciting. Temporary work, no insurance. Yeah, absolutely. Those are examples. And gig workers are just that, independent workers performing contract or consultation work for companies. They may enter into formal agreements with organizations to provide services to the company or its clients. Just like you mentioned, a gig worker may be somebody who's an independent contractor. That could be a delivery driver, a rideshare driver, or a variety of job tasks, really. I like the soundstage. That was a creative one. Gig workers can also be contractors for DoorDash, Uber, Lyft, Amazon, Instacart. Even Care.com is considered a gig economy job. As of 2023, 73.3 million freelancers are estimated to work in the United States, and 76.4 million are expected in 2024, according to Statista. The share of workers in the USA participating in the gig economy rose by 15% from 2010 to 2020, according to CNBC. So I want to talk a little bit about pros for gig workers. And yeah, Betty, you said it right there. That's one of the pros, is it provides flexible work schedules. And an opportunity for someone looking to move into another job based on their illness or injury, or even a career change, may be gig employment that allows them to trial a job they may consider. This is a great way to do some career exploration, also get experience on their resume if they're to see if they're able to move into this role on a more permanent basis. As workforce and return to work professionals, this is something to keep in mind for clients who may be a good fit for gig work and can use this to explore other jobs. And as employers, this may be an opportunity to recruit from this pool of individuals. Brandon and I were talking before we started the webinar, and really even people who are retired but want to have that extra money. And Michelle, you said that too. Yeah, absolutely. That is something that they could do as far as gig worker, and it is flexible. We're talking a lot about promoting work-life balance, and it could have the potential to do that if that's your only job. Self-employment provides autonomy, the ability to choose what type of work you want to take, and maybe even a good fit for college students. We talked about people who are retired, but what about college students? Or even a side hustle. Maybe it's something that you're doing in addition to your full-time position. So while the majority of the things that we just talked about are good reasons to be a gig worker, there may be some drawbacks as well. So as a contract or independent worker, you may have to track and invoice your own hours, pay taxes yourself as opposed to having them automatically come out of your check, as well as absorb or account for expenses. So that could be a disincentive to, being a gig worker. Contract jobs normally lack the benefits and job security, as well as workplace protections, maybe like family medical leave as an example. So there are some drawbacks to working in this manner, but obviously the pros are many. So we're going to move on to another trend that we are seeing in the stay at work and return to work arena, as well as in the workplace, and that is telehealth. And telehealth has become more popular with the onset of the pandemic, and it really allows healthcare providers to provide services via phone and virtual platforms. Some employers use telehealth on-site with a virtual exam room available where workers can have immediate access to a healthcare provider in a secure platform for injuries or illness that do not require emergency care. At Retain, we've had participants who have waited for several weeks to months to see a specialist in the healthcare. And in some circumstances, having that initial visit in a telehealth platform may allow that worker to get scheduled for diagnostic tests to be able to move forward, avoiding lags in treatment plan and services. So I want to plant that seed for those of us who are helping people in the stay at work and return to work goals that they have, and sometimes telehealth may be an appropriate option for them based on what their needs are. So consider that. Let's go ahead and look at some additional benefits to telehealth on our next slide. So you can see here, it's personalized private care, instant access to a healthcare provider, ability to see a specialist outside of their geographic area. So maybe they're limited to travel, but they may be able to consult with a specialist who's in a different part of the state. Access to medication and mental health support, as well as time savings and mobile access. I know I've had personal experience helping a family member who has received telehealth, and she can do it on her phone, on her tablet, or on her computer. So that's been really beneficial. And just that promotion of self-management of care. Providers have HIPAA-compliant video teleconferencing technology with the ability to provide care to patients with maybe mobility limitations or those in more rural areas. In addition to the benefits listed here, we may see fewer missed appointments and cancellations noted by healthcare providers, and that instant access via telehealth can help expedite a person's return to work, as opposed to waiting a week or maybe even more to see a provider. I know I just heard this week somebody shared with me that it was going to be more than a month for them to get into their primary care physician. So maybe telehealth may be an option in those types of circumstance. This not only helps the worker, but also the employer by having that valued employee back at work sooner. Another benefit can be 24/7 telehealth access that some employers have available for workers that work outside of first shift with on-site telehealth services that maximize opportunities for employees to receive diagnoses, treatments, and prescriptions for routine medical conditions via online meetings with healthcare professionals. So think about those individuals who work second or third shift that may need to seek care during or immediately following a shift. Telehealth could be an option for them as well. So while their pros tend to outweigh the cons for telehealth, there are some cons, such as the potential for misdiagnosis. Typically, these are for routine visits and not for all types of visits because there is no physical exam or ability to see the patient in a physical sense. So we are seeing this as an ongoing trend within the stay at work and return to work arena. And again, think about some of this as options for people that we help support and they in the stay at work and return to work goals that they are pursuing. So we're going to talk about industry trends in the stay at work and return to work arena. And according to the Hartford Workers' Compensation Trends in 2023, they show that employers have closer alignment with their safety and risk programs along with their claim resources. So maybe in the past, they've seen that their safety and risk programs may have operated more independently or in a silo as those claims departments, and now they're seeing more alignment with those. I'm sure we could have all guessed that the more remote work is being done since the onset of the pandemic, but the next one, integrating occupational and non-occupational work programs, has increased by employers. We've also seen creative ways employers are doing more to retain workers, like signing bonuses, front-loading PTO, weekly pay, and flexible scheduling. I'm going to pause here for a minute and just would love to get your input if anybody has seen any other creative ways that employers have really worked to retain individuals in the workplace. I think the sign-on bonus is one that I'm seeing a lot in looking at job descriptions, having them train individuals in their jobs. So yeah, giving them more professional development opportunities. Thank you, Naomi. That's really that's true. I am seeing that as well. So that's something that people may be looking for in addition to other types of benefits. And Deb said, similar to what you mentioned, nurses doing virtual nursing work. Yeah, that really affords a lot of flexibility as well. Oh, Michelle, helping pay for school and tuition, absolutely. And also having regional workers who may just report to main office once or twice a year, computer-based training. Absolutely, we're seeing that with some of our employers that we are partnering with as well. So those are all really great examples. So thank you for that. The last bullet on here, let's see, we got a couple more in here. Oh, offering bonuses or gift cards for sign-on and retention. So absolutely, and wellness activities, right. Starting benefits the first day of the job as well. So thank you for all of those. I think those are all great examples of ways that employers have worked to retain existing employees and also recruit new employees. One other example, our last bullet here, is that jobs have changed due to social distancing, staffing issues, and supply chain impact throughout the pandemic. And we have seen examples of this as well at Retain. And one of them in our inclusive job descriptions work that we have done is that we have seen jobs change because of positions going from on-site to fully remote following the pandemic. I know a lot of us at UK HDI, our positions are fully remote. Another one that was assumed, an individual assumed additional responsibilities in their job due to a shortage of workers. And so that really changed their job description. So that's something to consider as well. And then another one was a position that the physical demands changed for an essential function. And it actually went from a heavy physically demanding job to a medium one due to a supply change of a product they used for cleaning sidewalks of ice. So that really opened up a lot of opportunities for other people as well. Okay. Go ahead. And I'd like to talk about a couple of legislative trends that we have seen recently. And I'd like to highlight one, that states, including Kentucky, have laws or orders that extend workers' comp benefits from employees contracting COVID-19 on the job. And I think this is probably something that, you know, we, at the height of the pandemic, that we probably heard a lot more of, but wanted to make you aware of that. In 2022, there were 18 states that had established laws or orders extending those workers' comp benefits for employees who contract COVID-19 on the job, according to the U.S. Workers' Compensation Market Outlook. The second legislative trend that I would like to bring to your attention is the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. And this became effective in June 27th of this year. And I'd like to show you a graphic that I pulled from EEOC.gov website that describes the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act as a federal law that requires covered employers to provide reasonable accommodations to qualified workers, known limitations related to pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions, unless the conditions will cause the employer an undue hardship, which is defined as causing difficulty or expense. You can see here some possible accommodations for pregnant workers, including being able to sit and drink water, closer parking, flexible hours, additional break time, leave or time off to recover from childbirth, and being excused from strenuous activity or exposures to unsafe chemicals. Just want to take a quick poll and just raise your hand. How many of you were already familiar with this? Okay. So Pamela, oh, yep, it looks like a few of you were. So, okay. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you were aware of that. And I think this will be something that we can also be aware of as we're helping people in the stay at work and return to work realm. Okay, so some other trends to watch. Let me just check the chat box. Okay, Deb said yes as well. As of April 24th, 2023, there were 38 states, 3 territories, and the District of Columbia that allow the medical use of cannabis products. So this may make safety initiatives and a drug-free workplace more challenging for employer organizations. In March of this year, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear signed into law Senate Bill 47, which legalizes medical cannabis in Kentucky and will take effect in 2025. According to the National Law Review, employers may implement policies promoting workplace health and safety by restricting the use of medical cannabis by employees, or restricting or prohibiting the use of equipment, machinery, or power tools by an employee who is a registered qualified patient if the employer believes such use poses an unreasonable safety risk. The law does not prohibit employers from including in any contract provisions that prohibit the use of medical cannabis by employees, nor does it prohibit employers from establishing and enforcing drug testing policies, drug-free workplaces, or zero tolerance drug testing policies. So this is something that, as we are working with individuals who may be using medical marijuana, that we need to be aware of how that may impact their ability to stay at work and return to work. And I'll talk a little bit more about that before we close today. According to the National Institutes of Health, almost 1 in 3 Americans wears a wearable device, such as a smartwatch or band, to track their health and fitness. And according to thousands of adults who participated in the National Health Information, in the Health Information National Trends Survey, use of wearables outside the office opens doors of opportunity at work. Some companies have provided employees with health trackers to leverage insurance discounts and to incentivize staff to embrace healthier lifestyles. At Retain, we have helped individuals who use wearable technology be able to measure and maintain or manage body temperature. And really, until I was preparing for today's presentation, I didn't really think about a smartphone as being wearable technology, but that really falls into that category as well. And employers, including Walmart, have provided smartphones to workers for communication with coworkers, as well as inventory management and access to employee portals. And again, as more positions have remained work from home, another trend that we can watch is employers may expect to see more work from home claims. So I want to talk a little bit about opportunities that we have as, again, employers, healthcare providers, vocational and workforce professionals, to look at these trends and to help people in their goals to remain in the workforce. And alternative return to work programs like transitional work programs, modified duty off-site programs can be used by employers for non-occupational illness and injury, as well as work-related injuries. This is an opportunity for employers to look at their programs and expand them to include all types of absences. Another opportunity based on what we've talked about today is to review job descriptions at least annually, if not biannually, to incorporate any of those legislative changes and promote that inclusivity, starting with the job description. I would say take advantage of reviewing job descriptions as individuals are on leave, or maybe you're looking at the opportunity for them to stay at work based on an illness or injury. This is really a good time for the employer, the HR individual, the safety team, the supervisor, and that worker to look at that job and make sure that nothing has changed, like I mentioned before, based on some of the staffing or supply chain or social distancing or even remote work. So that's a really good way to be able to keep up as well in between those biannual or annual checks of job descriptions. And then we talked about the legislative changes, and as vocational and workforce professionals, taking the opportunity to stay informed about those legislative or other changes that can impact the workforce can assist in educating and supporting our clients and consumers in making informed decisions in their stay at work and return to work options. We talked about the trend for increase in medical cannabis usage. So helping your client or consumer understand how their use of medical cannabis may impact employment opportunities based on employer testing policies, maybe prior or at hire or prior to the job offer, as well as on an ongoing basis, can be really important in their success in not only securing that job, but also retaining employment. So I think, we could really help not just that individual worker, but also employer organizations as well, because then they can help recruit and retain individuals who are making an informed decision. So I'm going to pause for a minute, and before we wrap up, just invite you once again to share any information in the chat about anything that you heard today or any questions that you have. And while you do that, I'm just going to go ahead and remind you that one other opportunity that you can all take advantage of, whether you're an employer, healthcare provider, or someone who is a worker or helping a worker, is to think about Retain Kentucky in that individual's needs. So our eligibility criteria is that someone must live in Kentucky. They must either currently be employed or have worked in the last 12 months. And key here is that they have not applied for or are receiving SSI or SSDI. So it has to be both. They cannot have applied for it or they cannot be receiving it. And that their injury or illness must not be work-related. It needs to be non-occupational. But it can be really anything that we say has a diagnosis code. So it can be physical, it can be mental, it can be substance use, it can be COVID, it can be long COVID, it can be an intellectual diagnosis as well. So keep us in mind. We would welcome the opportunity to be able to meet people where they are, so they can call us, they can email us, they can visit our website, and we also have our participant screener that they can scan that QR code. It will ask them those eligibility questions, and if they say yes to they live in Kentucky, they have a non-work related illness or injury, that they have worked in the last 12 months or are currently working, and that they have not applied for SSI or SSDI, they will be taken to our intake queue, where an intake coordinator will reach out to them, usually within 48 hours, and begin the intake and enrollment process. So with that, I am going to go ahead and make sure there's no questions in the chat, but thank you all very much for joining us today. I hope you'll come back and spend some time with us in December. This will be uploaded to our Retain Kentucky Media website within usually a couple of weeks at the very most. And again, thank you for joining us. Have a great day.